Natasha Joseph, Rhodes University alumnus and City Press journalist, gave a talk on media ethics on the 20th of March at the Rhodes Council chambers. Asking the pertinent question, is there something rotten in the state of South African journalism, Joseph addressed issues such as the ethics surrounding the business interests of journalists.
It's easy to see what's unethical about accepting money from sources. It's easy to see what's unethical about allowing yourself to be led by sources so much that they write articles for you and you just put your byline on and put them into a newspaper. But what about freebies? What about being wined and dined by potential sources? What about sponsorships? Some journalists are sponsored by car companies, clothing brands, footwear brands. Is that a problem? That's a discussion we need to have. My editor, Ferrell Haffajee, proposed the idea at a Big Media 24 sort of Bosparate that we should be a freebie-free zone. And some people were horrified at that idea. And the response that we always get is, journalists are so poorly paid, we have to have some perks. But I don't hear police officers, nurses, teachers complaining that they need freebies and perks. And I'm uncomfortable with the idea that we can be perceived to be led by freebies. At City Press we have to disclose our interests. But what about making that record of disclosure public? Would you, as people who I hope read my newspaper, read other newspapers, watch television channels, listen to the radio, like to be able to go onto a website or some kind of central database and see what interests journalists have?
Joseph also briefly touched on the hotly contested issues of media regulation and censorship.
I will mention the Protection of Information Bill and the Media Appeals Tribunal briefly by saying that they've been touted as being tools with which the government can support ordinary South Africans. You see many stories about people who say that a headline has wrecked their career, or a newspaper has reported a front page lead about something they've allegedly done wrong and then put on page 8 the follow-up when the charges are dropped. I think actually what the Media Appeals Tribunal particularly is a very cynical move to protect people with powerful interests. I don't believe that it will do what it claims to do. I don't believe it will protect ordinary South Africans from bad or irresponsible journalism, which means that the onus is on us to protect ordinary South Africans from bad, irresponsible journalism.
Joseph stressed the importance of adequate training in ethical issues at a tertiary level.
Yesterday, imagine being a 21 or 22-year-old journalist on your first gig at a newspaper and being given a very serious political job to do, and suddenly being bombarded from all sides by people offering you things, trying to slip you an agenda. It's an extremely I still find it terrifying. I've been doing it for years. How do we handle that? Are we doing enough work as the leaders of newsrooms? Are faculties like here at Rhodes doing enough work? Are journalism schools doing enough work? Are we ramming home the idea of ethics? Should ethics be compulsory for all university students across all disciplines?
Joseph placed the task of maintaining credibility in journalism firmly before journalists themselves, urging them to evaluate the way that they conduct their business.
And what I'll argue, and I'd love to open the debate up afterwards, is that we're in an environment where perception is even more important perhaps than the reality. If we're perceived to be led, if we're perceived to be bought, if we're perceived to be living a lifestyle where we're sponsored by freebies and by contacts, whether we're dirty or not, whether we're corrupt or not, people will ask questions, and we're vastly in the spotlight.